Am I the jerk for getting my parent removed from their parents' will? I, a 19-year-old male, have a younger sister named Cassidy, who is a 16-year-old female. Cassidy is the person my father blames for his divorce from my mother. He introduced his mistress to her when she was 10 years old, as she was his favorite child, and she told our mother. They split up, and he has never forgiven her since. My mother later married a man named Andy when Cassidy was 15 years old. Andy constantly picked fights with Cassidy. This situation resulted in Cassidy having to move halfway across the country to live with our father in London. My father's wife, Sam, who is the mistress he later married, is also awful. She hates the fact that he has other children because that means he cannot give his full attention to her and her kids. I try my best to keep up with Cassidy and make sure she is okay, but I live in Scotland for university. Train tickets for me to visit her or vice versa are expensive, and I am in no position to keep paying for them. I considered having her move in with me since I have a flat with my boyfriend, but the education system in England and Scotland is slightly different with different exams. I do not know how well she would do considering all the other disruptions in her life. As I suspected, my father is doing a poor job of raising Cassidy. He allows his wife to bully her constantly. His stepchildren are nasty to her, and she is having a miserable time there. He has also been restricting her access to her phone, which I pay for, because he does not want her to tell me about what goes on in that house. It all came to a head last week when she ran away and only reappeared yesterday. She is refusing to tell anyone where she went, but it is obvious that this situation cannot continue. My father said that he was going to send her to live with me, which I was okay with, but I did not think it was the right decision for her. She also does not want to move to Scotland either. I decided to call up my father's parents, and they have offered to take Cassidy. They live just outside of London and were so upset that they said they are cutting my father from the will. They are disinheriting my half-siblings from his wife Sam and giving all of that to Cassidy as compensation for the trauma he has caused her. It is a lot of money that will definitely set her up, which I think is great because she deserves it. My father is furious right now. He said that sending Cassidy to live with me was the right choice for her since we get along really well, and she is not that close to our grandparents. However, I think that they will be better equipped to look after her than me. It also saves the disruption of having another big move in such a short amount of time for her. He said that I knew his parents would disinherit him, which is true, as they have threatened it before, and he thinks I snitched to make sure it would happen. Am I the asshole? Your actions don't make you a jerk. Your grandparents' decisions regarding their money and belongings are exclusively theirs to make. Your dad's actions and your grandparents' decision removed him from the will, not you. Anyone unable to admit fault is going to blame other people, and it sounds like your dad is one of those people. Am I the jerk for telling my partner that it's time to put their grandmother in a nursing home? My wife, who is 38 years old, has had her 84-year-old grandmother living with us for the past year after her husband and caregiver passed away from a broken hip. My wife is very close with her grandparents, and immediately following her grandfather's death, she offered to take care of her grandmother in our home so she wouldn't have to be put in a facility. No one else in her family really had the space or money. I love my wife's grandmother, but she has been nothing but a burden to take care of the past year. She is severely diabetic and has to take 13 different medicines at different times of the day. She can only eat certain foods, which means my wife and I have to cook way more often. We have to constantly monitor her blood sugar. She can only walk very short distances with the use of a cane or walker. She needs help dressing herself, bathing herself, going to the bathroom, and climbing stairs. She has doctor's appointments twice a week. I know that I am partially at fault for not saying anything and just going along with it, thinking that it wouldn't be forever and my wife would eventually decide to send her to a facility. I am a corporate lawyer, and I work remotely most days unless there is an important meeting or emergency that requires my presence at the office. That does mean that I am at home most of the time to help out, but even though I am remote, I am still expected to be doing work during company hours. Being constantly interrupted during the day has started to affect my work to the point that I find myself staying up later and later every night on my laptop playing catch-up. To be completely honest, patience is something that I never had, especially when it comes to dealing with the infirm. I just can't do it anymore, which is why, during breakfast this morning, I came clean to my wife and told her that I am burnt out from being a caregiver. It is taking away from my career and our relationship, and it is time to consider other options for her grandmother. I tried to explain that it's too much on us, and we have the money for a very nice facility that has the resources to care for her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She blew up and called me a heartless monster for wanting to put such a sweet woman that's done so much for her family, community, and church in a nursing home. She stormed out of the house, got in her car, and drove to her best friend's house. Later today, she came back home and is now barely speaking to me. I am starting to feel that maybe I was wrong. Am I the asshole? You are not in the wrong here. It's important to indicate to your wife that you cannot assist her personally with helping her grandmother as it is mentally and physically taxing, impacting your job. If she doesn't want to put her grandmother in a home, she needs to figure out a sustainable solution. Professional carers can help, even if they come in a couple of times a day for personal care. Your wife is stressed, but expecting you to shoulder the entire burden seems unreasonable. Am I the jerk for refusing to meet my partner's family and friends after 7 years? My boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years. We met in 2016, and everything seemed normal at the beginning. However, as time went on, he kept refusing to introduce me to his family, who were only a 45-minute car ride away. He met all my friends and even my family, who lived in a completely different state. He refused to bring me to weddings or birthday parties with his friends, so I have never met anyone in his circle either. We had mutual friends that we met at work, and we would hang out with them from time to time, but I never got to meet anyone outside of that. He has always been very gaslighting with this topic, so I kept cutting him slack to see if he would finally introduce me to the important people in his life. He almost brought me over for Thanksgiving one time and then left me waiting for him the entire day, only to text me that he wasn't going to bring me over anymore and gave me some random excuse. He did this many times over the past 7 years, always making me believe he was going to bring me over and then canceling on me at the last minute with some dumb excuse. I spent a good amount of holidays alone because of this trend and not making plans with friends, just in case he would actually do it this time. This took a huge mental toll on me, and I had to get a therapist because I felt as though there was something wrong with me. Sometime last year, I flipped the switch and simply could not care less about meeting anyone in his life. I also became colder towards him in every aspect. I have been preparing myself to let go of such a long relationship when I still care about him. I know I do not see myself marrying him because of all he put me through for so long. At the end of last year, I had to move away for grad school, and I refused to let him come with me. He skipped many of my birthday dinners with our mutual friends and would always celebrate his with me and then his friends separately. He didn't let me come to his college graduation, and he made an excuse to skip mine, so why would I allow him to be part of my big chapters after that? We have been in a long-distance relationship since, and he's been begging me to get on a plane for 4 hours so he can actually introduce me to everyone in his life and we can move forward together. My argument is, I only lived 45 minutes away from his family for 7 years, and now it's going to take me a whole plane ticket for him to very likely cancel on me for the millionth time as soon as I land. I am aware of all the red flags I have seen over the past years, and I really do not want to meet anyone anymore because it would be embarrassing at this point. I have also communicated this to him many times, but he is in complete denial and refuses to let me go. He has taken the blame for some of his actions, but also blames me for not letting go of the past. I have been more patient than anyone probably would have, and I have really had enough. Am I the asshole? You did nothing improper, but this relationship has run its course and it should end. The fact that he has no desire to introduce you to family and friends is a huge red flag. Someone should be proud and excited to introduce you to their loved ones, not hide you away. The best time to break up with him was when you moved for grad school. The second best time is right now. Am I the jerk for giving my sibling the silent treatment after they yelled at me one time too many? Alright, I'll preface this by saying I am 26 years old. My sister is 30 years old, and my mother lives with us. I pay rent, some bills, and contribute to general expenses. My sister contributes to groceries while my mother is retired. I've always been clear about the fact that I want my mother to live with me because I am incapable of having children, and I have decided that I will take care of her in the future. I am fine with that. My sister, however, clearly doesn't like living with us. She always goes on rants about how she just can't take it anymore and how I am too lazy to live with. She has been getting more agitated through the years, but in these past months, it has gotten insane. She would climb on top of me while I am asleep to take my charger, waking me up. But if I even open my mouth about it, she sets off. She would use my stuff without asking, but if I point it out, she would yell at me while not even allowing me to touch her things. I usually clean the kitchen, the living room, the hallways, and the balcony. She gets to clean just the kitchen maybe once or twice a week, and when she does, she starts saying, "Look, I clean so much better." When she finds me cleaning, she waits until I am done, looks for any missed spots, and starts yelling and saying how dirty I am. Worse yet, she would hover over me and micromanage what I do. She comments on everything. She says my style is disgusting and ugly. My job is terrible because who would hire someone who dresses like me? I eat too much of certain foods. I am lazy for eating a lot of noodles. I am cheap for shaving instead of using laser treatments. Before I wore a hijab, she would say my natural hair was a mess and I needed to straighten it. After wearing a hijab, she shifted the complaints to me not knowing how to style it. 2 nights ago, after making noodles and sitting down to eat them, she told me to go clean the pot I used immediately. She didn't want to use it. She just wanted me to clean it right away. I said, I will in a few minutes because I'm feeling dizzy. She got angry and suddenly switched to ordering me to arrange my closet because she didn't like how it looked. I told her I wouldn't, that it wasn't affecting her, and she dumped the entire closet on my bed. At that point, I snapped and just walked off. Since then, whenever she starts talking to me, I just walk off. I have decided not to talk to her unless she apologizes. Last night, I heard her telling our mother she got into an argument at work because of me. She claimed that because she was so angry at me, she couldn't sleep and ended up yelling at work. My problem here is that I am not sure if I really am lazy and making her life difficult as she says. I know that the silent treatment is abusive, but I don't know what else I can do. I have tried talking to her calmly before, but she gets this look of disgust on her face, and then I can't be calm anymore. Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk. You deserve some privacy and peace and quiet in your own home. Your sister is a deeply unhappy person who probably got into trouble at work because of her sour disposition and bossy nature. If you don't have your own room, you need to move somewhere you can get your own space, preferably without your sister. If that means leaving your mother with her, then do that. Your mom can manage without you for now. Am I the jerk for keeping all my roommates' belongings after they moved out, despite them wanting them back? I, a 21-year-old female, used to live with 2 roommates, both 21-year-old females, in an off-campus student housing apartment. We used to be friends before moving in, but we did not get along as they were disrespectful of my property and our shared space. They both found housing for next year, while I decided to stay in the same apartment unit. The apartment staff clearly stated that they were required to clean every apartment before the next tenant arrived, so everything had to be empty before leaving. However, since I renewed my lease, I could keep everything in my room, but I had to leave the living room and kitchen completely empty. The day before my roommates moved out, they asked me if they could keep some of their boxes with me, and I said no. I was going home for the summer that day, and I thought I made it clear that they had to find other arrangements. I received an email a week ago stating I was fined $900 for failure to clean my space. I drove to my student housing apartment the same day to check on my apartment and speak to the housing staff. When I got to my apartment, I noticed several things still in my living room. These were my roommates' items such as their television, vacuum, water purifier, dish rack, rice cooker, toaster, rug, couch pillows, ottoman, and boxes. I spoke to the apartment staff and explained that none of these things were mine and instead belonged to my roommates, so I should not have been fined. However, they explained that my roommates were no longer on the lease as of late May, so any belongings in there would be my responsibility. In the end, they basically said there was nothing they could do, and I had to pay the fine, which was a lot of money, so my summer savings were basically gone in an instant. When I got home, I messaged my roommates and told them about the situation. They gave a half-hearted apology and said they assumed it would not be an issue since I had the lease, and we all collectively used some of the stuff they left, so it was technically my responsibility too. I asked them to both pay me $450 each to cover the fine. They said no. To that I said, yeah, we all used those things, but now they're all mine. I had to pay the fine, so I'm going to keep everything you guys left. They began to freak out and spam messaged me about how I am being an asshole for keeping their personal belongings. I ignored the messages. Then they got on social media and blasted me for being a thief. I had many of their friends harass me. Now they are getting their parents involved, but so am I. I know whatever they left was probably worth more than the fine, but I am not going to pay for someone else's carelessness. They assumed they could just come over after the summer and retrieve their stuff, while bypassing the need to buy a storage unit or make other arrangements. Am I the asshole for keeping all my roommates' belongings after they moved out, despite them wanting it back? You are not in the wrong. The apartment staff clearly stated that everything had to be empty before leaving, and they were careless enough to ignore that. They assumed they could bypass the need to buy a storage unit and just come back for their stuff later. They either pay the fine or accept that the items now belong to someone else. Am I the jerk for letting my niece choose where her family lives? My brother died when my niece was 10 years old. He was divorced from my sister-in-law at the time of his death. My brother's assets, along with my niece's share of my parents' estate, were placed in a trust for my niece. I was in charge of the trust. There was some back and forth with my sister-in-law over who controlled the trust, but I ultimately gained control. The trust was able to pay off my brother's house, and the interest from the estate covers its upkeep. There is not much left after that, but at least my niece has a paid-off house. In lieu of my sister-in-law going after the estate for child support, I let her and my niece move into the house rent-free. My niece just turned 17 and is headed to her senior year of high school. My sister-in-law has since remarried and has a new family with her husband, including 1 child and 1 stepchild. The new husband and family have moved into the house. The new husband recently received a job transfer, and the whole family will have to move for the job. I talked to my niece about the move, and she hates the idea. She does not want to move with only 1 year left in high school. I agree with her on that issue. My sister-in-law wants me to sell the current house and use the funds to buy a new house in the new location. I told her that was automatically a no-go. I would not buy a house in a new location with my niece likely living there full-time for only 1 more year. My niece plans to go to college, probably not in the area of the new house. This move would benefit my sister-in-law more than my niece. I gave my sister-in-law 3 options. The family can continue to live in the current house and continue the deal as is. This means the new husband's job will fall through. The new location is closer to his family. We can sell the house and I will put the money into the trust. This will force my niece to move with her family. They may have to downsize because of me not giving money for a new house. The family moves and my niece stays behind. She essentially does her senior year alone in the house. I am not far from them and can check on her but cannot be there daily. I am out of her school district, so she cannot live with me and still go to the same school. My sister-in-law hates me right now for tearing her family apart. I really do not care about her hating me. If my niece was starting high school and not finishing it, I might act differently and not give her opinion as much weight in this decision. I might be willing to let my sister-in-law use the money to buy a new house. The issue is because she is close to the end of high school. I do not want to disrupt her schooling. If my niece said yes to the move, I might be willing to let my sister-in-law use the money as well. So am I the asshole for letting my niece choose where her family lives? Imagine the audacity to expect your daughter's house to be sold to buy a new house for her mother, stepfather, and other kids. Even if she were a freshman, it's not her job to buy her mother and stepfather a house. The house and the money from the sale of the house belong to your niece, period. If your niece is mature enough to make this kind of decision, it makes absolute sense to let her stay in the house until she graduates from high school. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.